Sorry about that. I was having an issue with my mic where Streamlabs wasn't picking up on it. But yeah, that's okay. So I hope everyone is having a great evening. I know I am. It's already been quite a week for me. This cold weather is not doing me any favors. This old demoness needs to learn to rest her bones once in a while. There's something I've been getting into. I don't know if you all like heard about it. I have it like on my desk right next to me. It's called diamond painting. Hi, Zach. Uh-oh, what happened to your main account? I have like this diamond painting kit on my desk next to me that I've been working on. Oh boy, that's fun. Well, I can tell you I didn't ban you from chat. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. I was just talking about my new hobby. It's okay. Anyway, yeah. So I find it very relaxing for gem painting. So what you do... Oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So what you do is you take like the stick and you dip it into the adhesive, and then you use it to pick up like a little gem piece, and then you stick it onto the canvas. And when you're done with it, you make a pattern with the gems. I have one that I bought at Target that I'm currently working on. It's supposed to be a galaxy. Yeah, it is a bit tricky. It's a bit tricky. I don't have the best motor skills, but it's good practice. I'm probably never going to be a surgeon. I'm not that great, but at least I can, grab the gem and stick it on. It gives me something to concentrate on for a little bit. But I don't know about you, but I'm somebody who carries my anxiety in my hands. So if my hands aren't doing anything, then I get super anxious. So if I keep them busy, then it relaxes me. So I don't know if any of you are like that, but it's just how I am. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. There's markings where you should put everything, where you should put the gems. It's a gem by number, so it'll like mark where everything is. So you can just find the place where every gem goes, then you'll be fine. It does take a lot of practice. I got one that's like on a harder level, but I think they had ones that were more for beginners. But Yeah, I'm having a good time with it so far. I don't know. Stuff that's like tedious, I like doing if it involves my hands. But that's probably why I like gaming so much. It's because it keeps me my hands occupied. But I was one of those people who just has so much nervous energy. Where if I'm not mindful of what I'm doing with myself, I like do things that annoy others. Like I stim a lot. Like usually what I do when I stim is I like jiggle my leg. I get the Jimmy legs bad. Another thing I do is if I have like something in my hands, like a pen, I'll click the pen. But the thing is, it's just like it annoys the shit out of people. When I was a kid, like in demon school, kinda a kid, and I was like learning how to like socialize and like fit in. I was in like physical therapy and occupational therapy, you know, a lot of therapy, because I was just struggling with things that normal people don't struggle with. So one of the things they gave me, yeah, I can do that. Is that better? One of the things they would give me to like help me was they would take like these little rubber balloons and fill them with either flour or cornstarch, and they would just give me a squeeze whenever I would start feeling anxious. Of course, I would break them like all the time because I got strong hands. But it was just like they would try to do their best to give me something that would keep me out of trouble. Yeah, I doodle a lot too. I would doodle like all the time on any surface that I could find. One time I like covered my jeans in like doodles, like from Sharpies, and my mom was so mad. But it's like, you know, I just like I tried to pay attention. I really did. But, you know, if it wasn't a subject that interested me, then I would have trouble paying attention. I was a big reader. I was a very big reader. I was one of those kids that like always had a book checked out at the school library. And I was always reading like way above my grade level. Like to the point where they had to give me books that weren't part of the regular curriculum because they said since my reading level was so much higher than my peers that they were worried I'd get bored with like reading the books that everybody else was reading. So like I was reading like full novels by the time I was in the first grade. I wouldn't say overachiever. I wouldn't say overachiever. It was more, I love doing it so much that I just got really good at it. Like, I would read all the time. Like, I would just read for fun. Like, and I still do. I would read a lot of novels. Whatever I could usually get my hands on. I wish I had more time to read, honestly. But I like the classics a lot. I like stuff that's a bit hard to digest. Stuff that I like, books that deal with complicated subjects and the emotions people experience just from life, going through life and dealing with trauma and growing up, I didn't like books that felt like they were like dumbing things down for me because I was younger. Like, I like especially children's books that treat the reader with the intelligence that they have. I don't like it when I feel like the author is being patronizing. And a lot of classic book lit isn't actually that hard to read once you understand like the language of the time period. Like, yeah, there's differences in languages, especially in the older books, but if you know what they're saying, then it's not that hard to understand. I'm trying to think, what was my favorite book when I was in school? Like, school age. Like, yeah. I know this is so cliche, but I really liked the scary stories to tell in the dark books. I would check them out all the time because my parents wouldn't let me buy them. But I just loved reading about stories and reading about other people like me. People who've been seen as monsters. I also really liked fairy tales and like mythology and poetry. I liked poetry a lot. I did read the Harry Potter books, but unfortunately my memories and views of them have been soured because of J.K. Rowling. But back then, I did enjoy reading them a lot. And I'm not going to tell people they can't like the books or anything like that because I don't agree with J.K. Rowling's personal views, but I mean, I know those books meant a lot to so many people, so I'm not going to judge if they still find comfort in them. But personally, I probably won't be engaging in anything Harry Potter related on this channel, such as watching movies or playing the games that are based on the movies. I just personally don't want to support her. did I like? When I got a little older, like maybe in high school, I did like reading like trashy, like teen romance novels, especially like the dark romance. I guess like the stuff I read back then would be considered like very problematic today, but they were just so good. Like, I would read like the biggest trash I could find back then. Oh, it was so good. I really did enjoy that genre of literature. I think it's more because at that time period I didn't really date much. I'm not somebody who really got to experience what it was like being in a relationship at that age. I did date occasionally, but it was very like casual. I guess that's the normal for high school age, but you know, I just like didn't really have many people I liked. Just like would see how my friends like get their hearts broken, and I was like, nah, that's too much trouble. that's more trouble than I want. So I just didn't actively seek relationships out. And I guess since it seemed like I wasn't interested, I didn't really get asked out much either. I was not popular. Like, believe it or not, I was not popular with the boys. I think boys are afraid of me. Like, I didn't have a prom date. I went by myself. I went solo to my prom. This one guy did ask me out, but then he said later that he was joking. Mainly because he might have been trying to save face, but he was one of those guys that would ask out every single girl who paid even the tiniest bit of attention to him. And I think since I didn't say yes right away, he said it was then a joke. And like, I didn't mean to be a bitch about that. It's just like, I didn't really know him that well, so I didn't really know how to like accept. But it's okay. I still had a lot of fun at my prom. I danced a lot, and I got a lot of really nice pictures, and I had a good time with the friends who also didn't have dates, because you didn't need a date to go to my prom. It wasn't something that was required, really. A lot of people actually went solo because of that. But, you know, that's one thing that I'm always so confused by, is the whole promposal thing. I guess it's kind of slowed down nowadays, but like, why do you need to make a big show of that? Like, just ask. Like, honestly, if somebody did that, if somebody did like an elaborate promposal, if they were while asking me for prom, I would honestly be so embarrassed. Like, I wouldn't want that. Like, just ask me, like, personally. Like, you don't need to, like, put on a big show for everyone like that. That's just too much work for what it is. When I think back at the time, yeah, it just seems like such a different lifetime. It was so long ago. It was. Thank you very much, Werewolf Game. It was definitely a very long time ago for me, and it's one of those things that I will occasionally look back and I'll just be like, yeah, those years were both good and bad, but I'm a different person now, and I'm not gonna let those 4 years I spent in high school but like define me, you know? I am a totally different person now than I was back then. I did get invited to my reunion, and I was just talking about high school, like memories. Like, I did get invited to my reunion, and I was just like, I hadn't really talked to anybody from my class since high school. I am not in contact with any of them. I have them added on Facebook, but I don't go out of my way to really talk to them. And I mean, that's partially my fault. I'm sure that if I were to reach out now, some of them might respond, but I didn't really have many close friends back then. And I'm not mad about that, because when I got older, I've kind of found where I belonged more. And high school to me was just a phase, a time in my life where I was still trying to figure things out and just trying to, go through the motions and get out of there. I felt like I was not meant to be stuck there. Like, obviously I did have friends, but they weren't people I kept in touch with. Mainly because since high school, I've moved around so much. I've changed so many things. I honestly doubt that my high school people would even recognize me now, because I have grown so much, and I'm a completely different demon than I was back then. I'm not somebody who wanted to be stuck in that town where I was attending school. I wanted to move on, and I wanted to move on quickly. I went to a college that nobody else was attending from my high school, and I know it sounds really shitty, and I promise you I'm not like stuck up or anything, but it's just like I didn't really have a lot in common with the people in my class. I was always seen as weird, and I was also bullied a bit. So, and this was like the age where online bullying like started becoming a thing that people talked about, and a lot of it was anonymous. So I like eventually figured out who was doing it, but at the time, like, I had no way of knowing who was picking on me, and it just kind of made me not want to trust people So it's almost like, I already considered myself very different and a monster. I don't need somebody reaffirming that for me. So I just didn't get too close to others back then. Mainly because I was worried that if I let in people too quick, it's okay. Yeah, well, I know who. I eventually figured out who it was. And I just stopped interacting with them completely. I just wanted to protect my space. And didn't want to deal with petty people dragging me down. So I distanced myself and I just said, this is only for a couple years. And I will move on once I graduate. And I did. I did. I still occasionally hear about what people are doing. And, my sister went to the same high school I did. It's just a few years later than I did. And she ended up marrying her high school sweetheart, so I know a little bit about what's going on because they still keep in contact with people from their high school, but it's not really a priority. I'm not gonna prioritize interacting with people who didn't prioritize me when I tried to be friendly, when I tried to befriend them, and they just didn't show any interest. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna waste any emotional energy on that. And it does make me kind of sad seeing some of these online posts about how, yeah, it definitely is, but I did keep in contact for a short while, but it just seemed like everybody was interested in doing their own thing, and my path wasn't going to cross theirs. Yeah, I'm sure too. It's been a long time. A lot of them have families. And if I do run into them, I'm not going to be rude or mean or anything like that. I will, I will ask them how they've been. But, they're all doing their own thing and I'm doing mine. And that just happens. That tends to happen. I think it's very rare for people to maintain contact with those they went to school with if they've moved away, like I have. It's just been a very long time since I've graduated, so yeah, so I'm sure they've matured, I'm sure they've grown up. But like sometimes people's paths don't cross again. And that's just a fact of life, and that's okay. Yeah. I do know how some people are doing because I do hear things, and my sister is still in contact with a lot of her high school friends. I did see some of them at her wedding, and I do hear things because small town gossip, like that is something people do engage in. And, it's just where I went in life wasn't compatible for where they were going. I didn't have a significant other in high school too. When I graduated, I was single, so it wasn't like I had a strong emotional tie either. Honestly, those who did end up sticking with their high school boyfriends or girlfriends, I do think that's very sweet and admirable. Or those who even got together after, I do think that's very special. But yeah, that just wasn't for me. I had ambitions that I wanted, and in order to achieve those goals, I needed to move on to bigger pastures, I needed to get out of that small town. Because the goals I had just weren't as obtainable if I stayed. But now I feel things are different. Yeah, I did. Well, yeah, a lot of them. Well, some of the ones who I know ended up with, like, people they knew in high school. It's definitely the former. Some of them, they didn't date in high school, but they were really close friends. And they only got together after high school. But, one such case of that, they got married and they currently have a kid together, so they seem very happy. And, it's so funny because I was kind of friends with them. And the girl, I remember one time she was crying because her boyfriend broke up with her. And she said, "Oh, I can't just seem to find like a guy who treats me well and who is nice and like has something in common with me." And I was like, "Well, why don't you date that guy you hang out with all the time? Like, I see you two together like every day and walking around in the hallway, you all seem so like comfortable with each other, and like they were best friends." And she said, no, that's so weird. Like, he's my best friend. I don't want to ruin their relationship. I don't want to ruin like what we have. And yeah, now they're married with a daughter, so yeah, so the right one was right in front of her face, and she just didn't consider it. Listen to me. I know what I'm talking about in terms of love. Yeah, I think I definitely agree with that. Because especially if you plan on like staying with them for life, you want to be with your best friend for life. Like, that's ideal, You want to be with somebody who trusts you and like who understands you. And yeah, exactly. You can. And like, I feel like the best relationships are founded on friendship. And of course, like, yes, that does take time to develop. Yeah, if you're gonna spend the rest of your life with someone, you should at least like being around them. I honestly think people would be much happier if they admitted that the one that they really want is their best friend. Like, if you think about it, if you describe your ideal partner, a lot of the times they're already there. I think people do know what they want. It's whether or not they feel like they deserve it. That's the big part. Especially women. I mean, could be. Could be. Could be. I mean, you know, I don't judge. I won't judge. I honestly think a lot of guys at some point develop romantic feelings for other men and just don't realize it. I mean, women definitely do. They definitely like get crushes on each other and like, but they don't realize it. But especially like young. Yeah, it could be, but you know, especially like during adolescence and puberty where you just got those hormones raging and you're trying to figure out what you like, and you know, I think, yeah, and I think that's fine. I think it's fine to test things out and to figure out like what you're into and what you want in a relationship, as long as it's with somebody you trust and who respects you. And like, it's all consensual, you know? And you know, like, yeah, I certainly messed around a little bit, and when those feelings for other women didn't like go away, and I figured out that I enjoyed, you know, being with women just as much as I enjoyed being with men. I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'm just bi. Like, I've known for a very long time, but, you know, just like having that affirmation is just like, okay, that's just how I am, and that's fine. But I do think it is very important to explore and to understand. I think the whole thing where you need to like know like right away and you need to stick with that, I think like that is so toxic, you know? Oh, I mean, dogs are nice too. Dogs make good companions, and they help you get active too. And also dogs like help you meet other people. Yeah. I don't even think like being straight is the default. I don't think like people I think naturally people don't swing either way until like, you know, they do some thinking and they explore other options. I mean, obviously there are straight and like gay and lesbian people. Like, there are people who have only one interest in one gender, but like, you know, I think there are a lot more bisexual people out there than we realize. And I think it's like okay to question too. Yeah. You know, it's kind of a scale. It's kind of a scale, you know? Even bi people, sometimes they lean one way or the other, and that's fine. Like, it doesn't have to be 50-50. And like, honestly, the whole thing where you label thing like that is like not even compulsory. Like, you don't need to like put a label on it or stick with something. Like, you can just say, oh yeah, like I prefer just not to say. That's okay too. I think people feel so much pressure. Yeah. Well, I think that's because we're exposed to it more. But, you know, it's like there's so much pressure to just like conform and like decide early on. And I'm just like, no, you don't have to. Like, you don't have to declare anything. You don't have to come out if you're not ready. You don't have to like declare you're one way or the other if you don't want to. Like, the only reason why I'm openly bisexual is because, and I say I am, is because I want those who feel like they'll be judged for who they love or for who they are. I want them to feel like they're in a safe space with me. So that's why I declare it. Like, it's more of like just saying, hey, I'm one of you all. Like, it's fine here. We're all good here. Like, it's mainly just to like tell people that I am part of the community and I do understand. Yeah. Oh, there's people who like come out more than once. Like, there's people who like come out like multiple times because it's like, oh, well, what they initially thought isn't true anymore, or they discovered something else. Like, there are cases of women coming out as bi first, and then later on they come out as lesbian, and I think that's fine. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's fine to come out more than once. And you know, our understanding of that. Yeah. Yeah. That's how I am. As long as you're kind and you're accepting of others, then I'll accept you. I know I make jokes about, you know, heterosexuals and stuff like that. I know I make jokes about that, but yeah. But it's more like I make jokes about how like straightness is like as a whole. Like, I don't see anything being wrong with being straight, like whatever. That's just the way people are. But like when it's like enforced as being normal and everything else is seen as abnormal, that's when I make fun of it. Like as straightness being the only option, you know? Like, I have so many hot takes about how something would be better if heterosexuality wasn't the only option. No. Yeah. I think it's called heteronormativity, where everything is just assumed to be hetero because that's what's presented as being normal. You know, I just make fun of that. And I make fun of how people were queer baited by certain things because Naruto was one of them. Naruto was an example of that. I make jokes about how people were queer baited by Naruto because Naruto and Sasuke had way more chemistry with each other than they did with their respectable love interests. So I'd be yeah, people Naruto would have been better if, Naruto and Sasuke just admitted they were in love with each other. I don't mind being controversial when it comes to this. If people don't like that I'm accepting and inclusive of the LGBTQ community, then they can go watch somebody else. But, I'm just a regular old Fujoshi. I mean, a lot of what I'm saying is based in feminist theory, and that is not really the best thing to talk about online unless you're in an academic setting. But definitely read up about it if that's something if what I'm saying has interested you at all. So I do recommend reading into it. There's a lot going on there and a lot of real fascinating stuff about sociology and just how things work and how things are seen. But let's see. This is more of the academic side of things. But I'm not afraid to kind of explore things that are a bit controversial. But I do think also a lot of anger towards other groups is rooted in frustrations too. So because we have come very far, but there's still a lot of work to be done overall. And that's what I do. Things are rough out there. Things are hard. Well, I don't mind if I become isolated because sticking up for what I believe in is very important to me. And, in a way, it's kind of just curating my own space and being around those who I'm comfortable being around. Well, I can guarantee you that as long as you're compassionate and an empathetic person, then I will not hate you. It takes a lot for me to hate somebody. Like a lot. Like for me to truly hate somebody. I may not agree with actions people take and how people handle things, but I'm usually a very understanding person. And a lot of the times when somebody says or does something that I think is a little inflammatory, I just take a step back and I say, okay, like what's going on around them? Like what is happening and why would they say something like this? And a lot of the times I'm just like, okay, this person's just in a very emotional state right now, and one outburst doesn't define who they are as a whole, you know? I've seen people who lash out because they feel like they need to defend themselves, and you know, I just see like somebody who's very scared. Mm-hmm. I'm somebody who likes to believe the best in people. Like that's my core value. I do think that humans as a whole want to be good. But I think even with that, trust has to be earned. Because I think when people hurt others, I think with time, the truth will reveal itself. I think humans just need to trust themselves and trust what comes natural to them and not give into biases that they've had kind of drilled into them, and just accept others, be nice, be kind, be passionate, and make good choices and do things that bring good into the world, and just make the world better. At the end of the day, make the world a better place than the world you were born into. That, I feel like that's a good rule to live by. I do think people are inherently good, but I think we learn, and no, we're just talking philosophy. Yeah, but you know, we have lived as long as I have, and when you work a job where you're in contact with a lot of people, you just see a lot of different situations, and you just accept that everyone's different, and some people are going to be dealing with hardship better in a more, what am I going to say, in a more constructive way than others will. I do think people need to be accountable for their actions, and that I think also when people generalize things, they're just really complaining about systemic issues that are decided by a few who are in power rather than a whole, rather than society as a whole. But, you know, if there's something wrong, then I think people shouldn't be apathetic about it. I think people should take action to be the change they want to see, you know? I don't like laying around and blaming others for my hardships. But there is an inequality in this world. There is inequality, and that is a fact. That there will always be inequalities, but it's up to us to make yeah, it really is easier to blame others. But, you know, if you spend all your time thinking about how somebody is against you and laying around saying, oh, I can't do this because everything's against me and I should just not even try, and just like, no, that's just giving up. Like, be the change you want, improve yourself, do work that improves things for others. But, you know, it's just one of those things that I feel like I don't need to read comments. Yeah, what defines true strength is just doing what you can to rise above challenges and rise above unfairness and pain and suffering. Just do the best you can, and there's always a way. There's always a way. Sometimes the path isn't clear, the path forward, and it may take time to see that path forward, but it's there. You know, life is worth living. Not everything needs to be so hopeless. Yes, that is very true. That's very true. Yeah. There are definitely things that cause me pain that are outside of my control. And I'm just gonna say, like, I'm not gonna run. I'm not gonna give up and say, oh, well, this is how it is. Like, I'm just gonna run away and leave others to deal with this shit show, you know? Like, what are we to do then? Like, what about those who can't leave? What about those who have nowhere to go? Are we supposed to just abandon them, you know? Yeah, exactly. You know, I have a neurodiverse brain, and it makes things difficult a lot of the time. Things that, you know, that others might not think would be a struggle, but they are for me. And rather than sitting around saying, oh, like I can't do this because of this. Yeah. Yeah. Because I have this difference in my brain, because I am different. Like, should I just give up and say, okay, I'm not worth anything, I can't do anything because I'm different, or because I'm at a disadvantage? No, you know what I say? I say screw them, you know? I know what I'm good at, I know where my strengths are, and the fact that I have this difference is actually a blessing. Because there's so many wonderful things that are seen. Yeah, exactly. There's so many things. Exactly. Yeah. You've evolved to like come this far. And you know, yes, knowledge and science and technology has made it so you can be here, you know? Even if your ancestors had issues, then they were able to survive because of that. You know? Yeah. I think that is beautiful about how there are people who are different and people who have their own strengths that they can use to contribute and make things so wonderful. Yeah, they're only one of us. Speaking of, I know, Zach, you said you're a student. Um, have you finished your finals yet? Like, how are they going? I hope they're going well. I know those are coming soon for a lot of students. I'm not in school currently, but you know, I do remember finals week and how hard that was, you know. I was in your position at one point. Yeah, school. Especially, yeah, it's okay to wait. No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to be still figuring things out. Like, the amount of times I've like gone to school and then taken breaks. Like, y'all want to hear something? I want to hear something. I don't have a degree, like, at all in anything. I have a high school diploma, and that's it. You should pursue that. You should. Like, get enrolled into that master's program. You can do it. Okay? That should be the next long-term goal for yourself, is to get into that program. And I know you can. That's okay. That's okay. That's okay to prioritize family first for now. Okay? That's okay. Yeah. It's okay. Like, and there are other paths out there too. There are trades, there are jobs you can get into that pay really well. And a lot of trades now that, like those that you would need to get like a certificate in, a lot of them do on-the-job training. So what used to require school? But teaching is so important. Teachers make such a difference. But it's okay if you gotta focus on your family for now, okay? I will say, if you do get a master's or even a PhD, you could probably become a college professor. Yeah. The job that I have now, it does require. Yeah, exactly. Mhm. The job I do now, it just it requires a certificate. Me? It's pretty funny. Maybe I'm just like subconsciously like changing topics based on the background music. But like the job I do now is you usually get like a license. That's awesome. That's awesome. Oh, that's so cool. It's never too late. If you decide later on, then it is perfectly okay to start later, But as I was saying, the job I do just requires a license, and yeah, and normally you would have to go through like a program, like a trade program to get the license, but because they changed the guidelines, I was able to learn on the job, and now I'm a fully licensed professional, and I basically got paid to learn everything. So of course I had to like take the exam that everybody else takes, but yeah. Oh yeah, there's always there's always going to be a demand for medicine. There's always going to be a demand for better treatments, for more options as we figure out more about the human body. Like, yeah, exactly. What it used to be, it is incredibly weird. It is so complex, the human body. I think it's less people want to stop dying, and more so people want to stop suffering. Because a lot of like terminal diseases are very painful, think those who have lived a long time and who are reaching the end of their life, I think they have accepted that they're going to go soon. Yep. And it learns to adapt. The human body, like, learns to adapt to different environments. Yeah. Yeah. I think, well, that's why, yeah, that's why people invented religion, you know? That's why religion is a thing, because it gives people the answers as to what is at the end of life. Like I can really only speak on Christianity, but Christianity has the concept of the afterlife because people don't want to just cease to exist. Exactly. I'll say, because I am a demon, I will outlive a lot of you all. I will probably live for a good couple of centuries, maybe even millennia. Who knows? Who knows? Because, well, we do have well, I'll totally crush you at beer pong. I totally will. I'm so good at it. Like, you all have no idea. Oh, dang. No. 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 Scrabble is not a good game to play with because I'm not the best at spelling, and sometimes I'll just make up words, and maybe someday if we ever do cross paths. The thing is, if we ever do, you might not know it's me. Because I'll look very different. Look very different when I go out. You might not recognize who I am because I go out in disguise. I'm able to change my appearance. That's how I've managed to evade persecution for so long. Despite being a demon, I'm able to blend in. The only thing that I can't really disguise is my voice, so if you're good at hearing, I really doubt that. The form I take on when I'm out does not look like this at all. I look very, very different. You'll have no idea just how assuming I can be. You sure about that? Sure about that? There may come a time when you'll see that live button and it won't be me on the other end of that camera. It might be somebody completely different. Might be, a friend, or something more. Might be somebody from your worst nightmares, or it might be a savior. You never know. You never know. Strange things have happened in my lifetime. I have encountered many, many people, many beings who might not even be human. There are those who may be similar to me, who might even sound like me, but I can promise you they're not me. And if there ever comes a day when you click onto my stream and there's somebody else there, might not be best, might be a good thing to not ask questions. Might not even be Eden anymore, it might be somebody else. You just never know. You never know who maybe could be. There are those out there who will want to take my place, who will be jealous of this platform that I've been given. There are those who might resent me for who I am, might have a grudge for things I've done, for trust broken, for those who I've strung along and manipulated and brought along on this wild ride that has been my life for almost 300 years now. And who knows when my past actions will catch up with me? Who knows? When that day comes, I will promise you that you will be surprised. And I will always keep things interesting.